BLUELOCK's final group stage game, England versus Japan, is right around the corner, and with qualification on the line, I'm gonna be creating the perfect formation for this match. From characters we absolutely need in this game, underrated players who will finally get their moment, and some guys who need to sit this game out, I'll be explaining who I think has the best chances of playing, the formation itself, why I think it will work, and why these certain players are playing. Deciding the best formation, especially for such an important game where we know the formation will be different, is going to be a super difficult task. So let's start with an obvious one. The goalkeeper is Gagamaru. Now, Gagamaru is just a non-negotiable player. I know the France performance was just the saddest thing for mankind, but I still believe in the boy. We've seen what he can do. Literally, the law of equivalent exchange. We saw him have a clean sheet and then concede every goal, so he should be back to normal. Am I right or am I right? I still don't see a world where Fukaku starts unless Gagamaru is injured or Kaneshiro wants to fit the remaining 6 players in the group stage. And Fukaku, I've already said my piece on him. He'll probably have a niche use in penalties during the knockout stage. So for this game, Gagamaru's in goalie. Now, goalie is obvious, but every other position or player can be swapped around here because you have to take in consideration both narrative and strategy. Some players who have never played will probably get their time to shine here, and some players who are normally super consistent, good players all around, might sit on the bench due to last game or the narrative. We see the biggest example of this with Itoshi Rin being benched, so the formation will be affected by that, not just putting the best players in. And before we get into our defenders, we also have to take in consideration England's team and what their playstyle is like. The general assumption is they are a defensive team since they held France to a 2-1 score, and their new gen is probably a defender like a CDM, or maybe even a wingback since they scored 5-1 against Nigeria. England will probably be more physical due to their defensive nature, and narratively, they've been known as stealing goals with specifically brute force and physical capabilities, and all the signature England players we've seen have really good physiques. So the formation that we make needs to kind of counter that. Jumping back into it, I want to have 3 center backs in this formation. There is a decent amount of choices here. The 3 musketeers of Aiku, Ryu, and Nico are kind of the obvious choices, but you also have some other players that you can throw in here, like Raichi due to his physicality, Zantetsu because he hasn't even played, even Reo, we've seen him play as a defender before. Considering the performance of the terrible trio during the France game, I do think one of them won't start to give us some new faces and change up the defense. So the first player in the middle is Aiku. Even though he had 0 touches on the ball last game, a bottom 3 performance, literally underperformed over Nico and Ryu, he's still the captain, he's still the best if we look past that performance. If it was anyone else but Aiku who didn't touch the ball, yeah, immediate water boy, they would be hitting the bench. Ego would have called them out too, but Aiku's still the best defender we have. Now for our right center back, I'm actually gonna go Reo here. Now hold up, let me explain myself before everyone says I just made some BS. Like I said before, I do think one of the main 3 defenders won't be playing, and Reo as the defender makes a lot of sense considering his past U20 performance. He was able to mark Shido. We know Reo has studied every player on BLUELOCK for copying too, so he could easily copy one of the defenders for BLUELOCK, and so far we've seen him use copy everywhere but the defense. It's the last piece he's missing. Yes, Reo is more suited to be a midfielder, but I feel like there is so much talent in the midfield currently, like Karasu and Hiyori, who are coming off their high in the France game. It just doesn't make any sense to bench either of them because they performed so well in the last game, and Reo could easily be played somewhere else. He literally has played everywhere during the U20 World Cup. Narratively too, he got his shine and goal in the Nigeria game, and it makes sense to have an all-rounder like Reo go against England's physical rush style. We've seen him be a good defender in the U20 game. I think he'd be a good replacement for one of the center backs. Which leaves us with one more spot on the left side between Ryu and Nico. Now, they both had similar-ish performance in the France game, and Nico played less time, so technically he had the potential to do more. Overall, I do think Nico has had a stronger performance throughout this U20 World Cup, and his training was for physicality, which we know will be important in this match specifically. Honestly, it's damn near 50-50 with them. You can make the same argument with Ryu and say he's taller, so that would help on defense. At this point, I'm gonna just flip a coin, but we have to make a decision. I'm gonna put Ryu here simply because of his height. Now, Nico has outperformed him. I do know that, but height is still very, very important, especially against England, which has Augie, for example. So that makes up our 3 center backs. I think a 3-back formation is solid. We've been running it this whole time, but the midfield is where we can get a lot more creative. There are so many different players you can start here, but someone who I think will absolutely shine this match is a Raichi in the center midfield. If there is any match for Raichi to play, it would be this one against a physical team. He has a lot of stamina, and Raichi will be a box-to-box midfielder where he can be both important offensively and defensively. We already know he's good at defense, but I also think his offense is pretty underrated. Like, at times, he was crucial to helping Isagi get the ball during his time in Ubers. He also recently played this position in the Nigeria game, and we saw him do exactly exactly that. So I think it makes all the sense that Raichi with his stamina is all over the pitch helping. Raichi is just severely underrated. I think he's such a good choice for this game against England. I can't wait to see him physically match up against them, as well as he'll be able to pair up nicely with our next center midfielder, which will be none other than Karasu Tabito. I feel like this is one of the more obvious choices that I don't have to explain. His performance in the last game does all the talking for me. I guess the only caveat is we don't know what Ego is gonna do. He was mad in chapter 350 talking about how some players didn't think they were the world's best, which could be hinting at Karasu. So although he doesn't deserve it, Ego might just bench him specifically for that. He did say BLUELOCK is going to be reborn. Again, I don't really see it happening because he performed so well in the last game. It just wouldn't make any sense. And I think the perfect formation against England would be including Karasu. Now let's talk strategy because that's just as important. You can alternate both Karasu and Raichi having one pull back and one go up. Karasu going up for more strategic buildups and Raichi going up for more power. We'll most likely see Karasu up more than Raichi since Karasu's offense is better and Raichi's defense is better, but they'll 100% be taking turns throughout the game. Now we're not done with the midfield. I want to include two more players on the sides as wingbacks, which is the most contested position on this list. You got players like Chigiri, Bachara, Zantetsu, Hiyori, Yukimiya. So many different players can be here, which makes it a hard decision. Some players like Zantetsu and Yukimiya have yet to play it in the World Cup, and along the wings they would be good. They have speed, they could track back and also give good crosses, but the same argument could be made for every single player here. So starting at our left wing back, I want to put Chigiri here. This guy is built for running up and down, so he's perfect for this position. We're also putting him on his left side like in the Neo Egoist League because for some reason he hasn't done that yet. It would be way too generous of Ego to let Chigiri do what he's trained to do. From this left side, he can get a lot of crosses, go up to help in numbers, run back to defend. He'll be owning that left side, and hey, he has access to 44 Panther Snipe now, so maybe we'll even see a goal from him. I'll also be including my goal predictions for this game once the formation is over, but first we need to decide the right side. I had a harder time deciding this one, but I ended up landing on Hiyori from his performance in the last game. Now, Hiyori is probably the most suitable midfielder. He can cross and dribble and help with offense, especially because we're putting Rayo in the center back position. The only thing is his defense kind of lacks for a wing back. We saw a little bit during PXG, but that right side might be a little weaker since he doesn't have someone like Chigiri or Zantetsu speed. But again, we've seen Hiyori track back and defend in the PXG game, so it might not be too big of a deal, as well as we have Karasu or Raichi to help in numbers for defense. In a normal scenario, I do think Bachara would start over Hiyori, but we have to look at the narrative. Karasu and Hiyori are coming off of their highs in the France game, so it wouldn't make any sense to start Bachara over them. I do think Bachara will eventually play in this game though, and I'll go over all of my substitutions towards the end, but for now, Hiyori is starting here. Alright, so far we have 3 center backs and 4 in the midfield, and now we just need to decide our 3 forwards, arguably the most important part of our formation. Now automatically, we can exclude Rin since Ego is benching him. I know all the Rin haters are rejoicing right now, but that leaves a lot of options on the table. You got the kind of obvious choices of Shido, Barou, and Isagi, and then possibly Kunigami, Yukimiya, I don't know, Sendo. It really does depend if they want to play every single character in the group stage that hasn't played, like Yukimiya, like Sendo, but I think they'll play during the not so important knockout stage games. So for the starting 11 formation, it will be a Barou on the left side, Shido on the right side, and Isagi playing as Cam. So starting the double jokers as well as Isagi, I do think there will be subs for the forwards later on, but narratively, I see this happening the most as a starting lineup. Ego says that BLUELOCK will be reborn, Barou did good in the last game, probably the most fit to replace Rin as well, and Shido narratively has the strongest backing to score since he didn't in the France game. Isagi operating as center attacking midfielder can help support the wings, create a triangle formation, go up as a third forward, and even better, operate as a shadow striker behind Barou and Shido since they will be taking all the attention. This will allow him to build up plays, use his brain, and most importantly, still be able to score goals. Keep in mind, narratively, we are swapping away from an Isagi-centered system, and his Rebel state focuses on devouring the number 1s, so most likely your Barous, your Shidos, and that whole formation, just like how he did it in the France game with the Karasu system. This will also allow Isagi to devour the enemy team's number 1, just like he did with Hugo, so it just makes sense to place Isagi here. Now, this is our current formation, a 3-4-1-2. I think this is what we will walk out with, and what I'd personally want as our best chances against England. In terms of strategy for this formation, it's pretty solid on defense, as you can have one of the wingbacks, Raichi or Karasu, track back, but it really shines on offense, and of course, that's what BLUELOCK does best. We are trying to make the best striker here. The best defense is more offense. Barou and Shido are just solid scoring options, and if they're going to be heavily marked, that allows Isagi to come in and try and take some shots. Even Chigiri on the left side with his 44 Panther Snipe could be an option too. However, this formation will be be very different by the end of this game because we have a lot of substitutions and narrative we still need to cover. And we all know the substitutions are some of the most exciting parts of Blue Lock. This will also tie in with how I think the game will go score-wise, so pretty much my whole match predictions. With a reborn Blue Lock, I do think we'll be struggling right out of the gate as we're not used to this formation, as well as England will probably dominate immediately to show how strong they are. From there, I do think England will score 2 goals and we'll have 0 for the first half. But before it ends, I think Shido will be able to score 1 from a solo goal. Shido is long overdue for his goal. We all thought it was coming in the France game, and narratively, I think a solo goal for him makes the most sense. In chapter 350, when Ego talked about everyone's compass and was crashing out, Shido was the only person smiling. And honestly, I think he fits Ego's definition of the world's top egoist. It fits his whole philosophy on football. It would also give Shido such an upscale because let's be honest, he's been done dirty. Everyone is saying he needs a passer like Itoshi Sai or Charles. We haven't seen a Shido solo feat in so long since like the 2nd or 3rd selection. Shido's goal would also be an important key going into the second half of the game on how they can follow their egos, how they can score just like him. Now, there is a lot of narrative key points I've been saving for the end of this video. First off, Isagi said he will make a spot for Rin in the England game. And second of all, we haven't seen any yellow cards or injuries yet, which is why I'm predicting someone will most likely get injured as a means to substitute. If I had to take a guess, it would most likely be Barou, so Kaneshiro has an excuse not to play him and sub him out. Now, Barou is probably the least prone character to injury, but it's football. Anyone could get injured. And I think this makes the most sense considering he got his highlight in the France game. Realistically speaking as well, Barou is a good player. The only excuse to sub him out would be an injury. It would also make space for other strikers to shine first, and then Barou can return later. And that's why narrative is so important for our formation, because Nagi will be returning to. Itoshi Rin needs to get his comeback and highlight. Shido hasn't scored yet. Barou is the only player who kind of got his shine already. So as an excuse to sub out, Barou will most likely get injured, and coming into the second half, Kunigami will be the one replacing him, most likely on the right side, swapping with Shido. Immediately, I don't think Rin will be the one coming back so soon in the second half. If he were to return, it would be at the end of the game to kind of save Blue Lock. And I also feel like Kunigami has a lot of reasons to play here. First of all, we know England is physical, so Kunigami can match up against that. He's literally the physique man. Second of all, we haven't seen Kunigami play as a forward in a while, which was the point of his character going into the NEL. A lot of people forgot about that. And third, Ego said for that France game specifically, he will be a defensive tank. So if there's any time to return, it would be against England and as a forward. I've been wanting that Kunigami return for a while. In fact, I wanted to start him, but I think we need to see either a Shido goal or Barou injury first before he comes in to replace one of them. This England game is all about a reborn Blue Lock, and we're against the motherland of soccer. So how fitting would it be for Kunigami to return to his origin and come back as a hero, scoring a goal? And to add even more narrative, I think we'll see an egoist 4 chemical reaction, which will be able to break through England, and this is where Batra comes back in. Replacing Hiryo on the right side, all of the egoist 4 will be playing for the first time on the pitch since Team Z versus Team V. They just have to, man. I would be such a happy camper seeing it. It makes all the sense and would most likely tie the score up against England. But this is the last game. England won't go down without a fight. They'll make the score 3-2, and then we'll implement a new player, someone who hasn't gotten their time to shine yet, Yuki Miya as a sub. Yuki Miya is the only player out of the 6 remaining Blue Lockers who hasn't played that has gotten the most development, so I think everyone is expecting him to play here. Again, Yuki Miya, you can make an argument for starting this game instead of subbing in, but I think he's just such an impactful sub. Most of the time, he is just dribbling through fodder, but when he subs in, Blue Lock's attack increases a lot. We saw it when he played for Bastard, and then he subbed in against PXG. As for who he is subbing in for, it's most likely Chigiri, because Chigiri getting subbed is just a natural thing at this point. The Egoist 4 chemical reaction will be done as well, so I think we might see a Batra subbed off for another player like Kiora or Zantetsu. I'm leaning more towards Kiora though, because this is a borderline match. Realistically, in real life football, you'd want Zantetsu as a wingback so that he can track back and also cross into the box, but I think Kiora narratively makes more sense. This is the borderline game. He has that whole character development of deciding fate, so he'll most likely have another insane assist like he had with the Kaiser Impact Magnus. Both of these subs, I think, will result in a goal from Yuki Miya. We barely see any Yuki Miya goals, so for him to get his shine here would be nice. Which leaves one more substitution out of 5, and with the score being 3-3, Blue Lock needs to score one more and win the game in order to qualify. Otherwise, they'll be eliminated because of a goal difference in the result of a tie. So replacing one of our forwards, Kunigami or Shido, will either be Itoshi Rin or Nagi Seishiro if he were to return mid-England game. Now, I do know the Nagi returning mid-England game theory is kind of a stretch, so if you don't believe it, then you could just put Itoshi Rin here. But only time will tell whether or not Kaneshiro will pull it off or not, but I do think it definitely sets up an interesting choice. With only one more sub being allowed, the choice is either between Itoshi Rin, who sold the last match but was hyped up narratively to return by Isagi, or will it be the reborn genius who crawled his way back up through side B and is now a choice on the table if side B finishes earlier than we thought. I've gone over the theory before in my England prediction video, so if you want more details on it, go check that out. But this will be a super interesting dilemma, as only one of them can sub in and essentially save BLUELOCK. If the choice comes down to Isagi as well, that's just the cherry on top. Who does he want to team up with? He told Rin he will make a spot for him, but Nagi is now an option. I honestly can't give too solid of an answer because it's such an out there theory or take, but regardless, I do think either one of them will sub in and score the last goal, saving BLUELOCK and qualifying us to the knockouts. But anyways, that's my perfect formation for BLUELOCK against England, my starting 11, who I think will sub in and who I think will score. I will say, realistically, this is kind of an out there formation. Like, would Rayo play defender? Nah, he's most likely either going to be a midfielder or Nico plays. We're relying on a lot of different theories, but hopefully you guys see where I'm coming from in terms of strategy, narrative, and evidence. This is personally what I think would be our strongest approach towards England would be. Make sure to leave your thoughts down below. What do you think of this formation? Who do you think will score? Drop your own starting 11s and any predictions you have for the England game. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching as always. YouTube really thinks you'd like this video right here, so be sure to check that one out too. I appreciate y'all so much, and I'll see y'all in the next one.